So this is the meditation on correct knowledge. And this meditation is related to the Yoga Sutras of Pantanjali, Book 1, Sutra 7. And with all of these meditations, before you begin, make sure you're in a quiet place where you will not be interrupted, and have something to write with afterwards if you need to make notes when the meditation is completed. So when we are able to access correct knowledge, it is because we know who we are. We are that peaceful self. We are the seer, the observer. And in observing, we know both who we are in reality, and we look outward and see reality itself. And we do this through 3 methods. The first and most important method of cultivation of correct knowledge is direct perception. Direct perception is cultivated primarily through the intuition. But what is spiritual intuition? Spiritual intuition involves some of the following: a sense of universality, synthetic understanding, and a loss of the sense of separation. Contemplate for a moment on what intuition really is. The intuition is much more than simply a gut instinct. That's because intuition is light itself. When that light comes from the self, and that's an important point, because are you within the light of the self? And if you are, only then can you access spiritual intuition. Then all decisions are made with an understanding of the needs of the greatest whole, a deep level of compassion and universal love, and the sense of separation and superiority are removed. Knowing that this is how intuition, especially spiritual intuition in the light of the self, is used, reflect. How much is direct perception or spiritual intuition being used in regards to difficulties I may be facing? Take a moment and consider one difficulty that you may be having within your life right now, or that you had recently in the past. How much did you resolve that difficulty in the light of the spiritual intuition? If need be, go back in this video and recall the factors that come into play whenever direct perception or spiritual intuition exist. Now we are ready to consider the second factor that most often comes into play with correct knowledge, and that is correct inference or deduction. This method of cultivation is the next best thing to default to if we have not been able to truly access spiritual intuition. So let's take a look at how correct inference or deduction can be used in solving problems in your life. Correct deduction involves the following factors to know if we are using it properly. It starts with a willingness to question assumptions. So in whatever difficulty you are faced with, you need to simply sit down and ask yourself, am I really seeing things clearly? Are my deductions or conclusions about what's going on correct? Take time to consider that. Correct deduction also involves an ability to handle paradox and seeming contradiction. Remember, all truth involves paradox. You might also consider the story of the blind men who each were conveying their deductions about an elephant. One seemed to describe the elephant in regards to the tail, another to the trunk, and the others to the legs and the body that they were feeling. Each had a various perspective. These perspectives seemed to be contradicting one another. But when looked at in the whole, in the light of the whole, with synthetic understanding, in the light of spiritual intuition, there was a greater understanding how individually each one was deducing what the elephant was like according to their own experience. But from a larger experience, seeming contradictions and paradoxes were resolved. So correct deduction requires knowing that these paradoxes and contradictions are in play, and instead of being uncomfortable with them, we are able to sit with them. Correct deduction also includes an orderly and comprehensive reasoning process. This is similar to what many people see in terms of investigative stories, where with scientific logic we are told that A leads to B leads to C, and therefore we can deduce that D is the solution. This is a wonderful process and very good to help us get out of fancy or the glamours or emotional reactions. But remember, correct deduction is the second best way to arrive at correct knowledge, because beyond an orderly and comprehensive reasoning process, we may also make quantum leaps and come to ahas that are based upon the light of spiritual intuition. Knowing how correct deduction works, let's reflect. How much is correct deduction being used in regards to difficulties that you may be facing? Consider carefully. Are you unable to handle the paradoxes? Are you making assumptions? Is your reasoning no longer in play because you're too emotionally reactive? Or are you questioning those assumptions? Are you able to work with paradox? And are you facing what you're dealing with in an orderly way? The third way in which we can arrive at correct knowledge is that of factual proof. Factual proof involves the following: the valuing of direct experience. So others may be sharing their awareness based upon their direct experience. They may also be sharing that awareness based upon something that they have seen with the outer senses, or something that they themselves have intuited with their own spiritual intuition. Factual proof involves respect for the wisdom of others. This wisdom is gained usually because those that you are accepting the facts from, the direct experience that they've had from, those people are authorities. They are people that you can respect. They may also not be people. It may be spiritual scripture. It may be scientific treatises, whatever it is, there needs to be an opening and a valuing and a respect for the authority of what you are being presented. And at the same time, factual proof requires that you continue to have an open mind. That way you can continue an open inquiry into the facts and maintain a non-dogmatic attitude regarding whatever teachers or teaching or presentation is made to you regarding these facts at hand. Knowing this about factual proof, reflect. How much is factual proof being used in regards to difficulties I may be facing? Do you really have the facts at hand? Are the people who have given you those facts reliable? Have you got a closed mind about the facts, or are you still able to maintain an open inquiry? These are all important if you are to arrive at correct knowledge. So once again, in order to arrive at correct knowledge, there are three main paths. They include direct perception or spiritual intuition, the most ideal approach, correct inference or deduction, and factual proof. Regarding anything that you believe to be so, bring it back into the light of the self, the peaceful self, the seer, the observer. Open up your eye and look through your eyes and inquire regarding all the things shared in this meditation, and see if you can awaken to correct knowledge or a deeper sense of the truth or the reality behind whatever you are facing. This concludes our meditation.